Hi, my dear YouTubers. How about narcissistic mothers and getting away from this magic of narcissism and entering into a phase of grief? How disappointment can destroy you or drive you. I'll be talking today about the grief of no contact with a narcissistic mother. You can also transport this to a narcissistic father, a narcissistic other family members, or a narcissistic partner. I'll be talking a little bit about the 5 phases of grief in the phase of no contact with a narcissistic parent or partner, which is denial, anger, negotiation, depression, and acceptance. And I want to get a little bit into the idea of letting go of this magic, what this person did to you. And when you get out of the magic, what a narcissistic relative, can do to you, mother, father, partner, you get to ground yourself, and you will see how much damage this all has caused on you, and what to do with this. And always to remember, disappointment can destroy you or drive you. Let's get going. My name is Christinajunge. I'm a love and leadership mentor. If you would like to subscribe to my channel, I'd love to have you. If you're interested in my coaching programs, there's contact information, christina@christinajunge.com, and I'll be happy to talk to you to see if we can get into a working relationship too. What is the magic about this word narcissistic mother? It has everything of what we don't understand. It has almost the magic of when in the Greek legend this Narcissus was looking into the water and falling in love with his own image, which isn't all the way right for a narcissist, because in reality they don't fall in love with nothing of themselves. But it has this magic to it. The word narcissism, narcissistic relationship of whichever kind. And do you know what it does to us? It hooks us. It leaves us staying in this realm of magic, because we can't pinpoint it. We can't pin it down. We can't stop it. It's almost like an awe that we have, that this exists, and at the same time it victimizes us so much that we don't understand reality any longer. So I want to talk about, in this video, getting out of this term and this almost idealizing a relationship to be there just for me to not having to take responsibility now for my own feelings, my well-being, my coming forward in my life, to living my visions, to living everything what I want to be and what I was created to be by God, and to get into a state of mind and into a state of being where this entire disappointment, where this entire grief drives me more than destroying me. And I think when we keep on being stuck to this idea of, narcissistic mother, it is like giving this term so much power. I don't know if you agree with me on that, but it is an impression I get more and more when I see how much interest is put into narcissistic mothers and narcissistic relationships. if we stop putting it under this like magic wand, you know, we start defining behaviors which are very clear to identify, and only when we like cut it down into these little behaviors, into these emotions we are going through, this is the moment when we can in reality counteract it, when this isn't anymore this bell over us or over those persons, you know, which are the narcissists, you know. It gives us an idea that this entire conjunto of behaviors. Sorry, my English is not always that great. Gets like summarized into one term. I get this, you know, it makes sense. But if we want to heal, I feel we need to go another step, and we need to put the different behaviors and what they make us feel, categorize them, put them into little pieces of cake instead of this entire piece of narcissistic mother, father, partner, and to react while we do small steps to each one of them. Meanwhile, we control ourselves. Meanwhile, we get in contact with ourselves. Meanwhile, we get in contact with our emotions and with our needs, and no longer have it be this something which is over there. I want to talk today about grief, which is a super important moment at the time of no contact, at least. Actually, grief was the entire situation, because what I never got from a narcissistic person was this love, this type of relationship was promising to me. Okay, and this is so hurtful, and this is so much damage which was caused on my trust, on my love, on my self-love, of the trust I give to another person freely, you know, and openly, of how I was open to love and to be wounded in a relationship. And we need to talk about this part, you know, where I need to not only jump into the grief process, but where I also have to recognize that those things were there. And this is really hard. I remember when I was first at university, when I was studying psychology, in contact with grief, and had to work through it, because I was, I think it was in the course of crisis intervention or something like this. And I didn't know back then how much grief I had, you know. Grief is not because of a person which dies, you know. I thought it was that was that. But I understood also that I hadn't had the chance to even grieve about people I had lost in my life through death, but that also separation, that accidents, that social occurrences, domestic violence, all these can occur the process of grief. And I had to go through so much grief, and it was so liberating. It was so freeing for me, you know, being able to touch this part inside of me, to acknowledge it, and to make contact with it, and to be there for it, and to being allowed to live it. So I want to talk about the phases of grief, because it is not always only, let's say, sad or let's say a process which I can really identify as belonging to a grief process. All right, and I want to talk about the denial, anger, negotiation, depression, and acceptance. These 5 phases inside some methods discovered other types of phases, and I think that's fine. For me, it was the best version of grief, of understanding loss in my life through these 5 phases: denial, anger, negotiation, depression, and acceptance. So there's some really counterintuitive things with it when we talk about denial and when we talk about anger or negotiation. So when we are talking in this specific case about going through a process of loss and of grief with a narcissistic mother or a narcissistic other parent or caregiver, or a narcissistic spouse or partner, which is either still there or already gone, what concerns the relationship, or has maybe already died, and we still have to go through the process of loss and of grief and of mourning. Anger was, okay, these 5 phases, they come up cyclically inside of our grief process. And sometimes we can't ask them to be there. They kind of come the way they want, and they don't have let's say an order which is just determined and supposed to be like this. It's not like that. So these 5 phases, they can come up in a way they come up, or the way they are triggered at a moment. I can work through the process at an outer layer and get triggered by outstanding occurrences, or by outstanding memories of the relationship I have or I had. And it doesn't have to be in a certain by certain rules or by certain numbers, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, how they are supposed to come up. They can come up again in a process of more fine-tuning later on, while I remember, while I get triggered, while I work through my processes, or whatever wants to come up emotionally at that point, be it now the next layer, or however the logic goes, which we sometimes don't know. Denial. We can pass through phases of denial when we keep on. Denial is much close or associated to the phase of negotiation, like pretending it wasn't there, pretending it hadn't touched me the way it touched me, pretending it hadn't the impact it had on me. And this denial is much connected to cognitive processes, where I actually justify, where I try to paint a different picture of the situation, and where I also get in contact with negotiation, because justifying and negotiation, they can have a similar feel to it, that I say, no, it didn't happen, or they just did it because they also had a bad childhood, they just did it because, well, I wasn't right, or, well, they were stressed, they had so much to do, they were insane, they had struggles with their health, they had struggles with their economy, or they had so many kids and we weren't easy. So this is denial. And it has a little bit of a feel with a negotiation, when I have to go through the process of loss and of mourning, while I actually deny that it happened like this. So It is much connected, that I have the feeling I don't want to get into the process. The process isn't there. It wasn't like this bad. It didn't have this impact. Or the negotiation part has sometimes also a little bit more of this, it's gonna change. You know, it was just like a big old, you know, moment for us all, and it didn't have anything to do, you know, it'll get better. And it was just happening on accident, and it was just popping up, so we couldn't, you know, deal with it. But it wasn't like that, you know. This is a little bit the combination of denial and of negotiation. And then we're having these anger parts. The anger, I've talked about this in earlier videos. Anger is something which lies in reality on top of the finer feelings of really of sadness, and of feeling abandoned, and of feeling lonely, and of feeling the loss, you know. And on top of this, for us not having to go down this road, you know, there's like a mechanism inside of ourselves which is healthy, you know, which has something of, no, you know, you stay away. And it's not so much the person, but it is also something which keeps us raw, like towards our own fine feelings, instead of getting in contact with them. You know, we are getting just angry about ourselves, angry about God that He would permit something like this, angry about the neighbors, angry about the other caregivers, angry about our siblings. And many times we got to be very careful with this. Our anger is being directed towards not the aggressor, all right? Because it would be like putting them off the pedestal at the next moment, and having to see them not the way we have idealized them, you know? We almost idealize a narcissistic parent, caregiver, or a narcissistic partner. We put them all on a pedestal. So this is how we allow them to do all this with us, because we all the time are like scratching and asking for their love, for their approval, and for their recognition, what they will never give to us. So when we get stuck in that, you know, it's an easier way to be angry, and probably not about this person, because before we get angry against that person, angry towards that person, we probably prefer to withdraw, to get angry about ourselves, to feel depressed, to feel rejected, to feel many things. But sometimes the anger part is something we don't really allow ourselves so quickly to deal with, or be it to be angry. This is very well researched in trauma relationships or traumatic relationships, you know, that we usually do not get angry towards the aggressor or towards the person who has threatened us so thoroughly in our lives, but towards the people around who haven't rescued us or who have rescued us, you know, and picking out just a small part where they weren't reliable, and where they didn't work towards us, and where they did something. So we like kind of almost invent, you know, like a spark of a situation which obviously was there, but which serves us to not having to get angry towards the person we have put on a pedestal, because they didn't give us love. Yeah, this is so tricky. Negotiation, to see if I can't maybe keep myself in my comfort zone. When I start, or have to start, or want to start to get out of a narcissistic relationship, this is much tricky, because it promises freedom and finally being loved and finally getting out of the victim state. But in reality, this means that I am now the one who has to be responsible for myself, you know. And this is the more difficult part, that I right now can't anymore accuse you of everything what you have done. I can, but then I can't get into the role of loss and of grieving and of mourning the relationship, because I'm still attached to it. And I keep on being in this process if I don't go out. So if I want to stay in my comfort zone, I might be for a longer time in a negotiation phase where I am trying to make this person be there still, you know, to minimize what they did, to try to figure out the good parts about it, you know, or to not having to really like dive deep into the process of my feelings of sadness, of loneliness, of being betrayed, of having lost this person so long ago, and having lost myself on the way. And this is a parallel process of grief. Is it grief or grievance? Well, you tell me in the comments, but then it's done. So the negotiation phase is an important moment where I need to see also the denial phase, also the anger phase in itself, where I need to evaluate myself. Do I want to stay on this spot? Am I comfortable in this space? Because the other, like the next step I would have to go, this is a very unknown space. This is really a space I haven't experienced so far. This is an attitude and an inner state of mind, an inner state of feeling, of being responsible for myself and for my feelings I haven't explored so far. So this is like a really, it's exploration territory, you know, and it can, I mean, it's scary, you know, it can cause us to wanting to back up and maintain the relationship as it was, because we can feel like some sort of noble in our victimness, in our, I'm the licking my wounds, I'm the poor guy or the poor girl here, the poor one here. And it makes us feel sometimes very comfortable to stay in there because we don't know all the other ways to go of self-affirmation, of emotional self-regulation, of self-love. We reject ourselves today more than they did. So there's like a big old barrier where I don't want to even go, you know, because I reject myself already so much, because my subconscious mind was impressed so hard with all these rejection and critique and craziness that I have built an inner image of myself, of this person, you know, and to mourn this process and to mourn having lost this person or those persons. Often it's an entire family system which is combined with other abuses, and to grieve this loss, we have to be strong, we have to make a decision, we have to enter into a territory we do not know, and our strength and our courage are being challenged at that moment, like wanting to let go, you know, of everything what has happened there, and that we go into this negotiation and maintain what was familiar to us. You know, it was sort of easier to us because it was a known path. Do you get that? So this disappointment, this can destroy us or it can drive us. So here we are at a, how do you say, two paths where I have to decide if I want to continue being destroyed by this person, my self-love, my worth, my dignity, my image of me being a person who can thrive, who can be creative, who can be freed, who can be independent from the evaluation of this person on the pedestal. And I need to make this decision. And then it can drive me to thrive, to flourish, to flower, to become beautiful, to become all mine, to become what God has put into me, to become this being which is full of talents, of passions, of creativeness, of ideas, of beautiful things, of love, And this is not that easy of a path to go as saying, you were guilty, you did this to me, you now have to reorganize everything and apologize to me that I will feel good in the end, It would be beautiful, of course, but let's be honest. Do you want to wait for that? And if it doesn't come, then what? Going no contact. At some point in the grief and loss process, in the mourning process, there will be phases, obviously, of depression, where I get in contact with everything I have lost in life, with everything she did to me, he did to me. I have not had opportunities to draw from, or chances I couldn't take. I always call this this little pig where you save money in. I don't know how you call it in the United States, but there was nobody putting gold medals into my account of self-worth and self-love and self-confidence, and it can feel really detrimental to me at some point of realizing what it meant to me, that this person or these persons, maybe you went from an upbringing, a narcissistic upbringing, into a narcissistic partnership, into the next, or into a narcissistic working relationship, and you feel you can't get out of it, because you haven't put enough golden monedas, gold coins into your account, so you have to do this now. And passing through phases of depression, of really realizing that you were a victim, you were made a victim, and you felt like a victim, and you kept feeling and working for being a victim. Sometimes we work for that, we like call this in and in again, because for some reason somebody didn't tell us. But on the other hand, there was sometimes something which we didn't want to be accountable for, because we said they were the ones, they did it. So I'm here and I'm all like, in chains. But you can't stay in chains. And then there will be coming the fifth phase of the grief process, the loss process, grievance, which is acceptance. And this is when you start integrating yourself again into life, into the beauty of life, where love is out there. You can create love towards yourself, towards other people, and hopefully also towards a partner, that you can live this support from each other, and that you can thrive, and that grieving is a part of life. It is a part of it, and especially a part of having grown up or having passed a significant time with a significant other, and which was betraying us so much, and that were hurting so much for so long, and that we were living in a posture of victimization for so long, and it all had such a great cost on our lives and on our forthcoming and on what drove us, If this was what drove us and it was like a negative spiral, then now we see how much we have lost in life, and that it is time now to build. It is time now to understand what has moved me into my downcomings, even if I was raised like that, and what it is, what I need to do to envision a future, to make this decision, and to grow, to thrive, to let go of the past, to replace my negative thoughts, replace my catastrophic thinking, replace my self-sabotaging, my seeing myself in each person as if they would see me as a loser, as somebody who is not. And to start growing and to start loving myself and to start thriving and to start putting this into myself, this love, which I keep on asking from other people, which is fine up until some point, but it is really not the way which helps me to get out of a narcissistic relationship. And no contact can do this with us. And it would be good for you to go through this process and to really feel it, and to be there for yourself and to hold yourself and to console yourself, to hold yourself, yes, to be there, to be present, to not run away at the moments, and at the same point to look for activities and for relationships and for connections, and be it at the bakery tomorrow, just a quick talk, like a quick smile you give out and you get to reaffirm that life is worth it, that it is worth suffering, because we can build so much beautiful things and so much beauty in this world if we decide to do it. Also, if we decide to abuse of people like narcissistic people do, it's a decision, then we see what is the cost of that, what it causes in us and in the world. But you can be a part of this constructing a beautiful world, and be it on a smaller scale. And you need to start with yourself. And grief is a part of this process. I hope this helped you. Who loves prayer, who can pray, if you like meditation and calm your mind and be there for yourself, do this. God will always be there for you. God allows many things, but to be able to reconnect to the source of life, to the source of love, to the source which is inside of yourself, is a great resource for you to heal and to thrive and to draw strength from. So I'm happy to have you all here. There was a little bit of a dimmed conversation, and I see you in my next videos. Check out my other videos, left and right, where I'm talking also about narcissistic mothers or narcissistic relationships. God bless you, folks. Bye.